All right, what is going on, everybody? How is everybody doing today? Welcome back here today to Just Ballin', and I had a different video idea for you guys today that you'll probably see in the next episode where I want to talk about like the most underrated players I think in the NBA right now. But ESPN did drop a 2026 NBA mock draft, their top 10 for this, and I wanted to basically react to this just to get more so familiar with these high school recruits or some of these guys that are still playing in college or maybe they're overseas, and just kind of figure out maybe who's going to go where, what the hype is around, and kind of read more about these prospects. So I would say like I assume like from this, like the main guys I think are going to be in the top 10, I probably watched like 5 of them this year. So I think this is more so just us getting familiar with some of these names that we're going to talk about all next year long in either college basketball or overseas. So yeah, the 2026 draft is in what, a year? It's about 16 months from now. So we have a while. I did actually just tweet this out after they came out with this, because Jonathan Givony of ESPN does this every year where they'll drop like kind of the way too early mock draft, really just to get familiar with some of these prospects. And the 2024 one is hilarious just because I would say the 2024 one is like the hardest one to predict. Like you go for 2026, you're talking about Cam Boozer, AJ Dybantsa, and Darryn Peterson. I would say there's a 98% chance that those guys are going to be top 10 picks, maybe 99.9% chance, just because of the high school pedigree. But the 2024 draft had so much variance to it, and obviously it was looked at as a bad draft class. Like looking back on what they did about 16 months ahead of it, you had Matas Buzelis. He was a top high school guy in Illinois. He went number 1 to the Spurs in this mock. Cody Williams, number 2. Hey, he ended up being a top 10 pick. They got Zachary Reese-Hachet right there. Number 3, he ended up being a top 3 pick. But Justin Edwards, number 4, who's been incredible this year for his circumstances and his situation as an undrafted free agent, going to the Sixers. You have Isaiah Collier at 5. Probably should have been a lottery pick, but ended up going late in the first round. You had Ron Holland 6, very close. He ended up going 5. DJ Wagner did not have a good freshman year at Kentucky. Bilal Coulibaly, not even the right draft class, because he ended up declaring for the 2023 draft and actually went, I think, 7th overall there. So that was pretty close. Kwame Evans, didn't really have a good freshman year at Oregon. And then Bronny James, who was uncommitted at the time. That, I want to assume that was for clicks, because I don't even think ESPN had Bronny James as a top 15, maybe top 50 guy in their ESPN recruiting going into that. So that was definitely for clicks. They definitely told him to get him in there. I don't think Jonathan Givony thought Bronny was a top 10 prospect, but it's just kind of funny to look back on that one specifically. So yeah, it's more so like I'm not really going to put too much depth into the teams in this mock draft, because this is really just like an early big board for ESPN as we get familiar with another really good college class. And I'm excited, man, just because like 2023 and 24 were so disappointing for college prospects, because 2023 was really weird because you had Wemby go number 1. You had Brandon Miller go number 2, college player at Alabama. But then you had Scoot Henderson from the G League Ignite, which is no longer a thing. You had the Thompson twins coming out of the Overtime Elite, which we haven't seen any prospects really go, I believe, in the first round out of the Overtime Elite since, or not at least high like that off the top of my head. So, and then we had like Bilal, who was international. Like you had Jarris Walker, Anthony Black in that draft class, like Grady Dick, Jett Howard, like still some college players. And then 2024 was loaded with international and G League guys, where you had Buzelis and Holland coming out of the G League. You had Reese-Hachet, Sarr, Tijan Salon all in the top 10. So this year, loaded with college freshmen, and next year, also going to be loaded with college freshmen. And I'm really excited to kind of break this down. And college had to go this way, because like the NIL, like these guys, like we watched LaMelo go play overseas. Now, he had a kind of different circumstance with the big baller brand. But you've seen guys go to the G League Ignite or maybe the Overtime Elite, and they can get paid, but now you can get paid in college, and you can get paid a decent amount of money. We're seeing AJ Dybantsa, I think, is going to get like $5+ million from BYU next year. So yeah, let's see who they got. Number 1, while so much can change over the next 16 months, here's the top part of the 2026 draft. All-star caliber talents in this class. I think I might do a little bit more reading here throughout this, but yeah, it's going to be a strong 2025 draft, and people are very excited about the 2026 draft behind 4 guys that could be in consideration of number 1, Ament, who I believe is still uncommitted, Cameron Boozer, who's going to Duke, AJ Dybantsa, who's going to BYU, and Darryn Peterson, I believe, is going to Kansas. So yeah, we'll see about the depth here. It looks like it's going to be one of the weaker classes of European prospects in some time. Okay, that's going to be kind of interesting to evaluate and see how much that has changed over the last few years. let's see. There are sure to be plenty of 2025 draft candidates who will withdraw their names. Yeah, I think guys like Will Riley at Illinois, Boogie Fland at Arkansas, Thomas Sorber at Georgetown. I think those are some guys like Drake Powell, Ian Jackson at UNC, Jaleel Bethea at Miami. A lot of guys that could go back to college for another year to improve their 2026 stock. Kind of like Colin Murray-Boyles, who, I mean, I think would have been a first-round pick in a weaker 2024 draft, but he's been playing incredible for South Carolina this year, and he's the top sophomore, basically, in this upcoming draft class. So, yeah, number one, I believe they do have Darryn Peterson, which is kind of crazy. Let's just hop into this. I'm going to kind of do all this reading on my own. I don't want to just read this to you guys like a book. So we have the Washington Wizards selecting number one. The draft order, as updated through Tuesday morning, is based on ESPN BPI projections and reflects the current state of picks owed and owned. So yeah, Darryn Peterson is his number one player. I don't know if they needed some controversy there, but I think we've always heard that it's AJ and Cameron Boozer at the top. But Darryn Peterson has been shooting like lights out over the last few weeks. Very good shot creator, athletic, just as athletic, maybe not as athletic as AJ, but close to it, can finish at the rim. And as your kind of modern day size as like a true shooting guard in this league, like 6'6", I forget what Dylan Harper is off the top of my head, but I think he's a little bit shorter than that. I don't know if Darryn Peterson is going to be like a true playmaking one. We're going to see him at Kansas next year that is going to have some roster turnover with Hunter Dickinson leaving. I mean, like AJ Storr was not really the best pickup in the world in the transfer portal, and I'm sure Bill Self is maybe going to reorganize this team. But this is going to be the best Kansas freshman we have had in quite some time, like better than Johnny Furphy by far. I'm trying to even remember the last Kansas like top 10 pick off the top of my head. I don't know why I'm doing that to myself, but it's definitely been a minute. Maybe this is the best Kansas freshman since Josh Jackson, which obviously didn't work out. But yeah, Josh Jackson was the 4th overall pick back in 2017, and Darryn Peterson has that modern day size, I think, to be a really good shooting guard at the NBA level, and I'm excited to watch him in the Big 12 next year. The Big 12 is going to have a ton of talent in this draft, freshman-wise, and even like currently, like you have VJ Edgecombe in the Big 12. That's going to go in the top 10. Maybe not as much this year, now that I'm thinking about it, because like Cooper Flag ACC, but the ACC really isn't that deep. It's a lot of SEC and Big 10 because SEC is just loaded with, well, yeah, and then you got like Lee McNeely at the Big East. You got Concanipple at Duke, and then you got come on at Duke. Yeah, Duke really may have 3 first round or top 10 picks this year, which is kind of nuts. But yeah, Darryn Peterson going number one to the Wizards. I think they're a team that obviously the 2025 draft can affect so much. And I'm not going to put too much stock into the mock portion of this, but it's really cool that Darryn Peterson is already a name that could go number one. And I really hope that like next year is we see like a 3-headed, maybe a 4-headed race for the number one pick. I want to see like blue chip talent make everybody's life difficult. I think like Cooper Flag had so much high school pedigree and just hype coming out of Maine or Montverde Academy and going to Duke that it was always going to be a little bit more than what Dylan Harper was going to have at Rutgers, because Dylan Harper, I think, was lower than Ace Bailey going into the year. He may have been lower than Nolan Traore in some people's like early big boards. And then he's having an incredible year at Rutgers. I believe he's going to be an incredible NBA player. But I wonder if like Dylan Harper was playing at like a Kansas, or he was playing at an Auburn or one of the top teams in the country like Cooper Flag is at Duke. Just think about it. Like, what if Dylan Harper was doing all of this at like St. John's, or if he was doing all this at UConn or Marquette, or maybe a team that does play in a weaker conference than the SEC that could be on just a bigger stage than what Rutgers is, because unless they somehow win the Big Ten tournament, they're not going to be in March Madness. But yeah, Darryn Peterson going number one. There could be some decommits as well. Like, I'm sure in Gavoni's like version of this at ESPN from 2025, Lee McNeely was listed to go to Indiana. He decommits, goes to UConn, I think, which is going to help his draft stock. So yeah, Washington getting Darryn Peterson number one, which is really exciting. Peterson has emerged as the best player in high school basketball this season, bringing an enviable combination of size, length, and shot creation prowess. He also possesses elite passing, shot-making versatility, defensive playmaking instincts, and all-around scoring talent. Headed to play for a Basketball Hall of Fame coach in Bill Self, Peterson will be the centerpiece of a Kansas roster that could use a player in his mold now, giving him every opportunity to solidify his standing as the number one prospect in next year's draft. That's going to be hyped about watching just like these prospects next year. So next up, AJ Dybantsa, number two, who I thought was going to be number one in this early big board. Going to New Orleans, I don't know if this is based on this year's draft class, because if I was going to use my projections for next year, the Pelicans would not be picking two. I would say there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to be worse than the Pelicans next year, like the Brooklyn Nets, the Utah Jazz. I would say the Chicago Bulls are probably going to be worse than the Pelicans, that I can say like a definite guarantee of. I say that, yeah, Hornets was, I don't know. I just think there's going to be a lot worse teams than the Pelicans. So I don't know if this is just based off this year, but they get AJ Dybantsa at number 2. This would be kind of electric, depending on who they get in the 2025 draft, but he's averaging 26 points, 10 rebounds, and 4 assists per game right now for Utah Prep. Every NBA team is searching for somebody of his mold, his athleticism. He's at 6'9", as a wing that could score in multiple ways on the floor. He can pass on the move, defend multiple positions, and bring nonstop intensity and competitiveness to every matchup. He's super competitive. He's got a high motor, and that's what I've enjoyed watching him at high school this year. And I'm excited to see how Kevin Young at BYU is going to coach and develop AJ Dybantsa next year. Just because, like, we've seen Yegor Demon be involved a ton this year, and maybe his draft stock has stayed the same or maybe dropped a little bit since the preseason, like big boards and mock drafts. But I think AJ Dybantsa is going to have a really good chance to shine in a good program at BYU. Like, they are a very good team this year in the Big 12, not like an elite team in college basketball, but they have been competitive more than maybe they've been in some other years. He's going to have the keys to the offense, and he's going to be surrounded by a veteran group, which is going to be really good for him. Maybe a little bit of like Cooper Flagg in a way at Duke with a little bit less talent, maybe in the freshman pool. But yeah, I think there's a chance that Dybantsa could end up as the number 1 pick. I wonder how his efficiency is going to be at BYU next year. It's going to be a little bit different style than what's going on at Utah, but I'm excited to see Kevin Young, who I think has done a very good job so far, the former Suns assistant, who's the BYU coach right now, is going to develop Dybantsa. And I'm sure the Jazz just want to get him, right? Like, he's playing at Utah Prep. He's going to BYU. He's coached by Kevin Young. There's the BYU connection with Danny Ainge and Ryan Smith, the GM and owner of the Utah Jazz. The Jazz probably want the kid. And I don't think the Jazz are going to be good next year. And I do think I don't know, like, say the Jazz do get Cooper Flagg. Like, I wonder if they just trade away Lowry Markkanen and they're like, we're okay being bad again next year. Or even if they get Dylan Harper and they're like, we just want to have the best chance at getting AJ Dybantsa. And hey, maybe there's a scenario where AJ doesn't go in the top 2 and the guy who at number 3 ends up going in number 2, and that is Cameron Boozer, the son of Carlos Boozer, who's going to be playing at Duke. So yeah, they're going to lose one top freshman in Cooper Flagg. He's not going back to Duke. I know there's been like that rumor that he would love to come back. I mean, there is a scenario where Duke could somehow pony up more money than what he can make on his rookie deal at the number 1 pick, but that is a lot of money. That'd be a historic amount of booster alumni NIL money. But the thing that would be silly for Cooper Flagg, if he's really on this path to earn that rookie max extension, I mean, that's going to be $200 million he would have to wait a year for. That's guaranteed money. That is life-changing money. I know that he's getting life-changing money probably as a freshman, but either way, I just don't think you sacrifice that contract. I think you're fine pushing back the rookie deal, but then you're also pushing back, the rookie extension, and you're pushing back the potential supermax extension after that, which I think it's very tough to come by. And the rookie, what do you make as a first overall pick? You're making $12 million a year. I think Dybantsa is getting like $7 or $8 million a year. I don't think Duke, unless they have some billion. I mean, I'm sure Duke's got a really good alumni pool and booster money, but either way, I don't think they're ponying up that much money for Cooper Flagg when they're going to have a good freshman class. And who knows, maybe like they get Isaiah Evans back and Cameron and Caden Boozer are going to be there next year. I know they're probably going to lose Kaman and Khan, and I think Sion James is no longer eligible to come back. But they're still going to be good next year either way. But Cameron Boozer is the most productive player in high school, and he has a winning resume, unmatched by any prospect in recent memory. He has elite feel for the game and skill level with the ability to handle, pass, shoot, and guard every position on the floor. Insatiable physicality, crashing the glass and dominating his matchups inside. Next season, Boozer could rival Cooper Flagg, or rival the year Cooper Flagg is having at Duke, and will likely emerge as a strong candidate for National Player of the Year honors. Yeah, this is a clear top 3 of Cameron Boozer, AJ Dybantsa, and Darryn Peterson. And I'm really excited just to see who emerges as, if there's going to be a clear number 1, I think Cooper Flagg has done this year. Or is it just going to be like a 3-headed race, kind of like what we saw back in 2022 with Paolo, Chet, and Jabari Smith Jr. Now, I think these 3 have a lot more hype coming out of high school. I think Paolo had some hype. Chet had a ton of hype. But yeah, it's really, I think, 3 blue chipping prospects. And this is going to be, I think, another good 2026 draft. Nate Ament, who Gavoni did mention has a chance to still go number 1. He's not committed yet, which I think we're getting pretty late to the process. It looks like Duke, Kentucky, Louisville are vying for his services next season. I would probably like to see him in Kentucky or Louisville. I don't know if that would be good for him to be there with Cameron Boozer. I mean, maybe he doesn't really care that much. But I think Kentucky under Mark Pope, they have an older team that could be leaving. He could be the main freshman there. And Louisville, I mean, they've done a great job this year. I really like Chucky Hepburn as a 2nd round pick. But yeah, moving on from Kenny Payne, Pat Kelsey has done a phenomenal job this year, and I think may get Coach of the Year awards. But yeah, he's Someone that was unknown 18 months ago. He's grown significantly. He's filled out his frame and become a devastating matchup at 6'11", with a good ball handle. And that's going to, I think, be appealing to a lot of people. He's got good shot making ability, intriguing passing, and defensive versatility. It's funny too, because like a lot of these guys, I mean, they're athletic freaks and they're like insane size for people in high school as well. But they're all like great defenders in high school, and then you watch them like in college, maybe it gets a little bit worse, and it could get worse at the NBA level. It's really just because the competition around them, people get quicker, or people are quicker, stronger, more skilled, and that makes sense for any game. But yeah, I think it would be probably better for Nate Ament to go to Kentucky or Louisville than Duke, but if he goes to Duke, that's going to be insane. So we have Jaden Quintons at number 5 to the Toronto Raptors. He's currently playing college basketball right now at Arizona State, and man, he showed some flashes this year. He is an athletic freak at the big man position. He's still 17 years old. Like, there's a chance he could hit 7 feet next year and be the top center on the board, or big man. Well, I guess Cameron Boozer's a big man, but yeah, top center on the board for this class. And he's showing flashes this year as a 17-year-old at Arizona State. He did reclassify, so there is or he had to play 2 years in college. Now, I'm not sure if he could transfer, because Arizona State, not really, like under Bobby Early, brother of Dan Early, kind of disappointing this year. I do wonder if he would transfer to a bigger program. I don't know if he can, just because he had to do 2 years in college. I don't know if it had to be at Arizona State, but yeah, he's going to be the top big in this class. They have Toronto here at number 5. They had Charlotte there at number 4, but I mean, yeah, I think Kaman Maiwa could be all in on the Raptors in this draft, so I don't know if they would double up on big man. But yeah, he's very exciting, lob threat, rim protector, good switchability, and I think is going to develop. And I think playing just 2 years of college basketball and is still going to be like 18 when he's drafted is going to be just great for his development. 6, we have the Brooklyn Nets taking Kareem Lopez. Yeah, like, I think the Nets are going to be a bottom 3 team in the league next year. I don't know if they're going to get lucky in the lottery, but if they don't, I think they may be upset about this rebuild, the start of it, because we're learning from the Utah Jazz. You kind of want to bottom out when you can, and they were supposed to bottom out this year. The Jazz were supposed to bottom out in 23 and 24. They ended up with Taylor Hendricks and Cody Williams with their first round pick. And for the Nets, you I don't know, like you may be a little bit disappointed this year if you end up with Asa Newell, or you end up with a Colin Murray Boyles, like good players, good prospects, but not in the Cooper Flagg or Dylan Harper tier. They got Kareem Lopez going to the Nets at number 6. He's playing at the NBL. He is, I believe, from Mexico, which is cool because he has a chance to be like one of the best Mexican players of all time in the NBA, but great feel for the game, good ball handling ability for somebody of his size. And this is just a loaded draft of wings, like with Peterson, AJ, and Nate Ament. We'll see kind of where he is. And then you have Kareem Lopez. It's going to be fun. Now, he's going to, I believe, be in the NBL next year also. He's currently 17 years old, and he's going to probably get even better next year. He's going to have more touches, more involvement in the offense. For the Breakers, if he's going to be there, I don't know. I'd love to see him like be Kasparis or Jaeger Devin and come over here. Not going to happen. Probably not going to happen. But it's just a little bit easier to watch these prospects. You gotta have to do a little bit more work. Stay up at different times if you want to watch a live game. But luckily, there's a lot of NBL footage on YouTube. So yeah, Kareem Lopez, definitely an intriguing prospect. He probably has, I think, a lot of variance too. He could end up maybe in the top 5. Maybe he jumps Nate Ament, but maybe there's a chance he falls out of the top 10. Spurs here at 7, Chris Sinak Jr. He's committed to Houston. Probably looked at as the second best, like, true center with Jaden, because Cameron Boozer's more of a 4. But 6'10" at 18 years old, somebody that has defensive versatility, tremendous frame with mobility, finishing prowess, and an outside shooting touch. So I haven't really watched too much of Chris Sinak, and I think he's somebody I definitely want to keep my eye on and start to watch a little bit more. Intriguing, he's going to go to Houston. I wonder how he's going to be in that system. Is he going to be used kind of like Jarris Walker was a couple years ago? But if he does have floor spacing ability, that's something Jaden Quintons does not really have right now. So that could maybe push him to be center 1 in this class. And he goes to San Antonio there at 7. I'd expect San Antonio to not be picking here unless this is from like Atlanta or a different team. Number 8, Philadelphia. So yeah, I guess this is really just used on this year, which is, I don't know, kind of lame. It would have been cool if they predicted next year. But you have Caleb Wilson committed to UNC. Not been a great year for UNC freshmen when you're talking about Drake Powell and Ian Jackson, but Caleb Wilson, I think, is a little bit better coming out of high school. Committed to UNC. He can push the defensive, or he can push off the defensive glass, makes plays all over the floor defensively, and can pass on the move. we'll see about his offense. And I think that was a big question mark with Ian Jackson and Drake Powell. It looks like Hubert Davis is signed to an extension. I don't think he's going anywhere. We'll see if any of those freshmen come back. Is Elliot Cadeau going to come back for another year? How is this team going to look in the transfer portal now that they have a GM? I think Caleb Wilson could also have a lot of variance to his play. He could be somebody that I look back at this photo and you see like DJ Wagner or Kwame Evans or even Bronny James there in the top 10. And are we going to see Caleb Wilson in the top 10 a year from now? We have Dash Daniels, number 9 to the Bulls. Kind of high. Did not expect him to be that high, but it's kind of cool. He is the younger brother of Dyson Daniels, and he's very similar as a prospect. Somebody that is going to be one of the best perimeter defenders in this draft. He mentions that he's an outstanding defender who is somewhat of a work in progress as a ball handler, shooter, and overall scorer, but has a strong feel for the game and is unselfish with a significant long-term upside to tap into. Who does that remind you of? Yeah, his brother Dyson Daniels. So honestly, I think Dyson Daniels' improvement this year, as long as Dash can play well in the NBL next year, there is a chance that teams are going to see him basically as a Dyson 2.0 and are going to see a lot of value into that. But hey, Dyson took 2 years to basically find a feel for the game offensively, and he had to get traded to Atlanta, and he's been incredible this year on the perimeter defensively. And I think Dash, great size already as a 17-year-old. So yeah, tune into the NBL next year or right now because you can watch him and Kareem Lopez there playing at the NBL. So yeah, that's gonna be fun to tune into next year. Where last year you had like Alex Sarr come out of the NBL. This year, really nobody too big. Like Rocco Zikarsky's there, but like you're watching like Alex Tui over there in Australia. But it looks like we may have a couple better prospects. And then the last player we have is Mikel Brown Jr., committed to Louisville, a late bloomer who sprouted from 5'10" to 6'4". Why couldn't I do that, man? I topped out at 5'8". Could I have gone up to 6'2"? Throughout his time at DME Academy in Florida, Brown shows impressive scoring instincts and talent as a ball handler, passer, and outside shooter. He's thin right now at 173 and inconsistent as a finisher and a defender, but we'll see how he's going to grow. Oh, so he's committed to Louisville as well. So there's a chance Louisville's back, man. Like, they've been good this year and competitive in the ACC. They've been one of the better teams in the ACC this year, and they can get Mikel Brown, and they can get Nate Ament. That could be kind of exciting. That could definitely be kind of exciting for Louisville basketball, and they could be back on the map basically since Rick Pitino left a while ago. So yeah, that is their early top 10 for this draft. Like I said, a lot can change, but I do think there's a good chance that Peterson, Dybantsa, and Cameron Bruiser are all going to be top picks. I think we got to keep an eye on where Nate Ament is going to go. You could go watch Jaden Quintans at Arizona State right now. We got some NBL prospects. Chris Sinat going to go to Houston. You got Caleb Wilson go to UNC. And Mikel Brown Jr. going to Louisville. They do also mention here as some prospects that could stay in college basketball. I don't think Jace Richardson would stay. I think he could be a lottery pick this year. So I wouldn't really, I don't know. He's playing very well at Michigan State. Obviously, the NIL can change a ton for some of these guys as well. Like you're going to make more money probably staying another year if you're a top player at a big program than being like a mid-second round pick or early second round pick. So that could make a ton of sense. Mentioned Drake Powell and Ian Jackson could stay. Thomas Sorber, some of the names I mentioned before, because he's out for the year. So yeah, we'll see where he's going to be in this draft. Even though if the foot injury isn't going to linger long term, I would still take him in the first round. Do mention Thomas Avicic from Illinois, if he'll stay. Jojo Tugler from Houston. JT Toppin, yeah, he should definitely stay at Texas Tech. He's going to make more money there. And Darren Williams. So a lot's going to change till then, but I just kind of wanted to get familiar with the 2026 NBA draft. Let me know what you guys think down below. Maybe you're tuned into some of these guys. Maybe they're playing at a high school near you, or you just like to follow high school basketball, or maybe you're just excited about maybe these guys playing for your favorite program in college next year. If you guys did enjoy it, appreciate you dropping a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, I really appreciate a rating and review. All those audio versions are in the YouTube descriptions. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.